Huh?
So that's what we sit for, because I do too.
Yeah.
Back in it.
It's like I was slouching.
Good? Okay.
You know what time it is? It's time to get in the game with your host, Cynthia J.
Good evening, sports fans. It is time for your favorite sports show. I am your host, Tara J, and we are here live from the 904 Live Studios here in Jacksonville, Florida, for Get in the Game. Now, as you know, last Tuesday we started our new series, Life After Football, and we're taking a break from that now because one of our guests couldn't join us. But to my right, you've seen him before. If you remember, he was with me at the beginning of the year when we launched Get in the Game here on 904 Live, and we brought in the new year discussing the top sports moments in the last decade, in my opinion. So welcome back, Coach Chris Corprew. You have been super busy on the road. Just kind of explain to our Get in the Game fans what this season looks like for you, because before when you came on, we talked about all of the coaching and recruiting that you're involved with. So this is a very busy season for you right now.
Absolutely. Right now we have players transitioning from high school to being collegiate prospects. So you have your training taking place. You have players being recruited. You just had your scholarship signing period take place. Now you have your underclassmen preparing to be the next top of collegiate candidates for scholarship offers. So just on the road traveling, getting to know players, train players. You got your NFL guys coming to get some workouts before their OTAs begin. So very, very busy road right now.
Awesome. It sounds exciting. So give us a glimpse, because most people, as a sports fan, they hear about that kind of stuff behind the scenes all the time. And I think what we're going to have to do here at Get in the Game is come out and catch you guys live in action to give them that glimpse. But tell us right now, what's a day in the life like for some of these athletes, especially those going from college to the pros, because it's crunch time right now.
Absolutely. So the first thing a kid wants to know is that his commitment is secure. So once his commitment is secure, that's his athletic scholarship. Once he does that, now it's preparing himself, finishing up his school, finishing up his accolades, making sure his academics are on point, but keeping that communication with the collegiate coaches that recruited him. Because now he doesn't want to come there his first year and sit. Most of these kids is true freshmen. Part of that package is, coach, can I come and play as a true freshman?
Right.
So it's not just something that's going to be words. This kid has to perform. So now that means he has to be part of this program, training, being part of the conditioning, receiving information from the university that he's attending to make sure he's in academic standings, he's on the right path, but doing what the program requires of him. That's weightlifting, that's strength and conditioning. So, and then not just that, those are the minor components. Now it's understanding the playbook that's about to be presented to you. So these guys, they take it very serious. So right now, those players are out looking for trainers, coaches, anybody that can help them get a head start. The biggest head start is with the new guys that are able to graduate in December. Yep. So that's a huge advantage, because you think about it, you're in school for 5 months.
Right.
So you're not a true freshman, because when August comes around, you've got a whole semester of transition up under your belt.
So what does Coach Me Up Sports do, which is the name of your organization that you started, and you created it for a specific reason.
Absolutely.
Right? So explain that and kind of tell us what you do to help these athletes get ready so that they can transition well.
Okay. So we start off all the way from the 4-year-old all the way to the NFL player.
Wow.
What we saw is collegiate coaches, NFL coaches, former college coaches and players, is that you'll get a kid in high school that's missing. He'll have the natural elements, but he'll be missing the coaching environment. He'll be missing the language, or he'll be missing the body language. Something as simple as basic fundamentals. Which foot goes up? Understanding in football, what's a technique? You know, this is the technique we need you to use versus zone. This is the technique we need you to use versus man. It's almost like if you're speaking a foreign language to a kid, he'll miss an opportunity to be successful just because he doesn't speak the language. So we provide that. We provide that sound, fundamental, ground base. We're actually an NFL affiliate for NFL Flag. So we have 2 flag locations, one in Savannah, Georgia, and one in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Okay.
we provide what's called the 17 Showcase Combine. That's a combine that takes place for underclassmen from all the way up from Virginia all the way down to Florida. So it's a six state tour, and we travel the East Coast. We call it the 17 because it follows the highway of the 17. So we have something called airport recruiting. Most colleges that recruit, you're going to recruit close to the airport. So the schools have a budget. You got a small window to go see as many schools as you can in a certain amount of time. Well, what about those schools that are way off the beaten path?
Yeah.
That's the old 17 highway. So a lot of good ball players come out of those areas. Something as simple as what they call the muck down in Florida. It's going to be away from 95. It's going to be away from 10. It's going to be that off beaten path. So we bring the combine and the showcase to those areas to give those kids an opportunity to get noticed.
Wow. So there are a lot of parents watching right now, parents of athletes who are scrambling. They may have not had the opportunity to have an early commit, or even because we know that even in late February, early March, there are still some students that are still trying to push to get that full scholarship. So how do they get in touch with you so that they can be a part of that 17 showcase if
Absolutely.
they need to?
It's just they go to www.cmu-sports with an S on the end.com. And I'll say this, you used to play the game of, you'll see on Twitter or on Facebook or on social media where guys are saying, I received my 5th offer, I received my 7th offer, my 8th offer. Well, now you want to be careful with that because they have something called the transfer portal.
Yeah.
So it used to be that a high school athlete had an advantage because his only competition was a junior college player. Well, now you got a kid that's been on the big stream
Right.
that's deciding to transfer. So now you have a priority. Coaches want transfer portal kids,
Right.
junior college kids, then high school kids. Coaches want to win. So at the end of the day, instead of shopping yourself around, I think I would make a recommendation for a player, if you're going to make a commitment, stick to it to secure your own education.
Right. That sounds good. So let's talk about those guys that are getting ready for combine. This is the NFL combine. So guys who are now declaring for the draft, whether they're underclassmen or they automatically go in the pool because they've graduated, finished their 4th year or 5th year as a senior, and now they're getting ready to train.
Yes.
May not get an invite to, the
big
NFL
show.
combine, so they have their pro day to work on. So how is Coach Me Up Sports helping those athletes?
We also, what we do with that component is, you want to gather film. You want to see exactly what it is that a player lacks or needs to improve on. It could be something as simple as short bursts, quickness, strength. It could be hips. So we try to specialize in each individual athlete and what component that, if it's its strength, we improve that. If it's watching film, we'll teach a player how to watch film. Once again, we talk about that language. Does he know the language? Does he understand backpedaling? Does he understand cover 3, cover 1? Maybe he came out of a system where the NFL or the program that wants him sees something in him, and we know that, so we need to make him acclimated to to that particular program. So we provide the strength and conditioning. We provide, if it's nutrition, we talk to him. We put you, what we do is we're a smorgasbord. We're not the professionals. We present you to the professionals that can get you. If it's meals, we'll put you to the person that gets you meals. If it's strength and conditioning, we put you to that. We have coaches that are position specific. If you're a running back, if you're a linebacker, if you're a wide receiver, we want to make you a student of the game. And that's what we do. We prepare you for the combine. The combine is just the physical component.
Yeah.
You have to be able to transfer that practice field to the game field. And we're able to do that for you.
That's awesome. Well, now that we got that out of the way, because that's some great information for our viewing audience, let's kind of talk about what's coming up, because March 18th, free agent frenzy is going to go crazy. And I think, Coach, correct me if I'm wrong, this is probably one of the biggest free agency pools we've seen in a long time, especially concerning quarterbacks. So right now you have Dak Prescott's a free agent. You have Ryan Tannehill. You have Tom Brady. Everybody's talking about Tom Brady. No longer do you have Drew Brees because, as you know, former Saints, you were there with them. He just re-signed, said he's coming back. So now that kind of affects your Teddy Bridgewater, your Taysom Hill. When you look at the quarterbacks that are out there on the free agent market, who do you think we're going to see in a new uniform? A lot of people are saying maybe Tom Brady. They're talking about teams are going to fly in and kind of present him with numbers, and it's going to get crazy pretty soon.
I think you'd be crazy not to take a veteran quarterback. That leadership is so important in the locker room and on the field, and it's the key to turning the engine on. So to know that those guys are out there and available and not take a shot, at least take a shot, because you at least want to say we tried and we gave it 110%. And like you said, at the end of the day, it's going to start with your ability to move the ball. And they do say championship defense wins championships, but there are things like field possession, time of clock. You have to give that defense a break. You know, no defense can stay on the field forever, and you have to put your defense in a situation to win. And what can do that? A quarterback, a leader. He doesn't have to win the game for us, just don't lose it. So a lot of quarterbacks are out there can control the game, and that's what a lot of coaches are looking for. Control the game for me, control field of possession, control the clock. If you can help us with one or two or three of those factors, we're going to be better. We're going to have a higher success rate of winning.
Now let's talk about one guy in particular, because I know you watched him in college there at FSU, Jameis Winston. So didn't have the best season. I mean, he set an NFL record for most touchdowns and interceptions in one season, but he also led the league in passing yards with over 5,000. He's a free agent. A hard-nosed coach like Bruce Arians with Byron Leftwich on the staff, do they keep someone like Jameis, or is it time for the Bucs to move on and find their true quarterback of the future?
I think that is it's two different types of question. It's a front office question, money-wise, and then it's a productivity question behind a coach's closed doors conference room. Like you say, it's almost like a double-edged sword. He helped us as much as he hurt us. So can that be corrected? I think with the proper training, I think making sure if he's able to see, when you can see your mistakes and you can acknowledge them, and we're not making the same mistakes over, that tells me that me and my player are on the same page. But if we're watching film and it's, wow, man, you know, we threw this same interception last week, or this same concept, we had this same mistake then that tells me somebody's not on the same page. So if we can sit down and have that conversation, and those numbers are different, well, you know, this particular concept, he threw the interception because he didn't see this. The next week it was a different concept. But if we're repeating a cycle, then there between the coach and the player, some communication needs to take place.
Right. And so how much does the incoming quarterback class play a role in teams who are needing to make a decision at quarterback? Because you also have, you know, someone like Phillip Rivers, who, you know, him and the Chargers agreed to kind of part ways. He's 38.
Right.
Now, Tom Brady has showed us that age can be on your side, but we know everybody's not Tom Brady.
Right.
So, again, you said some teams will go for a veteran, but with a quarterback class that has Tua and Joe Burrow and all of these kids that have proven they can sling this ball.
Absolutely. Not only sling the ball, they change the launch points of the quarterback, meaning you have quarterbacks that are more mobile, that have the ability to be a threat. I would call it a 12th man on the field. Is one point that you got to worry about a kid being a thrower or a passer. And that's a huge difference between those two types of quarterbacks. Now you're getting what they used to call athletes, dual threat. You're getting a dual threat quarterback. This guy Lamar Jackson, this guy can run and throw the ball. I'm pretty sure a lot of the critics that talked about his passing ability will probably want to take some of that back now. So, you know, now he's a dual threat. So not only do we have to worry about his arm, or they didn't think that his arm would develop as fast as it did.
Right.
But that's where I count into play. You can never question a person's heart. You know, he had the determination to get better. It wasn't just I've made it to the NFL and that's it. There was something in that guy's heart where he just
Yeah.
wanted to be a winner.
That's a
So
good
he
point.
went out and found a way to make his team better
Yeah.
by making himself better.
And that's something you can't coach. Either
Absolutely.
a player, an athlete has it or they don't. So that's a good point that you made. When you look here at Jacksonville, our hometown Jaguars, I mean, we probably had a quarterback situation that was just as crazy as anybody else this year. But you bring in Nick Foles, you pay him all this money, he's paid. Now, to his defense, I will say, and agree or disagree, he wasn't playing behind the stoutiest, most mobile offensive line in the league, and so he got hurt. That's not something you can predict when you give someone that kind of money. So then you have your backup come in, Gardner Minshew, whom this city loves and basically adopts as their little brother. What do the Jaguars do moving forward in a situation like this?
Well, you're going to play the guy that can win you games.
Not
Unfortunately,
the guy you paid
right,
necessarily. Okay.
and unfortunately, like I said, it becomes that front office decision or that closed coaching doors decision. But at the end of the day, I think the fans, they want to win.
Yeah.
And they want to put the guy on the field that's going to win. Unfortunately, like you say, sometimes contracts can play a part of that because you have spent a lot of money. And if I'm not playing or showing productivity from this product that I invested and put money into, who made the bad decision? So that's a question that nobody wants to be responsible for.
Yeah.
And absolutely. So before we have a knee-jerk reaction, let's make sure we've exhausted all avenues. So maybe you get another chance. Maybe they'll have reps up, but they have to name a starting quarterback.
Yeah.
Yep.
And soon. And I think what we saw the owner Shad Khan do was kind of take the blame off of the table of a former VP,
Right.
removing Tom Coughlin. So now it's kind of totally on the coaching staff.
Yep.
And so, in your opinion, because you've been behind the scenes in some organizations, what is the Jacksonville Jaguars' ultimate issue? Because it's like every year we get great players, but then it doesn't produce on the field. And now you're having fans take 6 home games, 2 are going to be in London. So now it's like you have to win, and you have to win soon, and you got to be consistent doing it.
I think your key word is what you just said, consistency. Somewhere there has to be a gelling to take place, and with a quarterback controversy, it makes it harder, but it doesn't make it impossible.
Right.
You can look at the Saints. They
Right.
found a way. You know, they have 3 great quarterbacks,
Yeah.
and they found a way to make sure all of those guys are productive. So I just think the coaching staff, you need to block everything else out and find out what's best for those guys that put those uniforms on, and you make it work for them or something that they're comfortable with. But you got to find that piece of the puzzle that fits and stop forcing it or trying to make it fit or makeshift. But just, you make it work. It's supposed to be there. This is what you trust and believe in. So trust your product.
Awesome. Now, you work with a lot of athletes and running backs. I think we've entered into a decade where running backs are, we had that kind of drought where it was hard to find really good running backs. We're not in the era anymore where we have a Chris Johnson,
Right.
Where we have a Maurice Jones-Drew, so when you look at running backs like Derrick Henry and Melvin Gordon, who were both on the block for free agency, arguably, Derrick Henry, he led the league in rushing with over 1,500 yards this past year. If you're a team, do you take a chance and let them go and see if you can find some new, fresh legs?
Not a Derrick Henry.
No.
not a Derrick Henry. The same way they say defense wins championships, being able to run the football in the NFL is huge.
Even though people are saying, because there's that argument we hear every year that it's becoming a passing league. And so that's kind of why we saw running backs going late in the draft, third quarter, fourth quarter, fifth quarter. You disagree a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you look at any team that has success, even your championship team, they have what? they have a stable of running backs. So that's something, when you talk about the running backs being a later thought, actually they're not. They're actually that extra wide receiver. Because what you're seeing now is you're seeing running backs that have better hands.
Yeah.
Yep. So now they can play. You have the dual threat quarterback. You have a dual threat running back. He can line up in the slot. Kamara, he can line up in the slot. He can play in the backfield. Those guys present a mismatch to a coverage. So you might say it's a passing game, but that running back complements the passing game.
Absolutely. So if you're the Titans, you pay Derrick Henry.
Absolutely.
If you're the Chargers, do you keep Melvin Gordon?
Absolutely.
Okay, sounds good. So one thing you point up, championship teams. So you weren't here with us a couple weeks ago. The Chiefs won the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Now, I will admit, going into that game, I absolutely wanted the Chiefs to win. Andy Reid is like one of my favorite coaches.
Okay.
But there's no way anyone could have told me that Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, that they were not going to be having over 100 yards for the game. But they did it.
Yes.
And so it was, what were they able to do to kind of shock the 49ers in that game?
I think it's the biggest part. Had a coach a long time ago say, everybody makes adjustments at halftime. Great coaches make adjustments right now. So,
oh, wow.
And I think that's a huge difference. You know, Andy Reid's been around a long time.
Phenomenal coach,
right.
Yeah.
And they say, I can get stuff wrong all my life. I just need to get it right that one time to make it count. And he did.
Yeah.
And he did. Spreading the ball around. I mean, you can't just focus or hone in on one person. And those are weapons. And that goes back to, like I say, if we're looking at, Mahomes going to want to throw the ball downfield or dink and dunk. Well, now you got the running backs. Well, now they're running the ball. Now they go from running the ball. Now they're throwing the ball to the running backs. Now they're back to the passing game. So it's like trying to do a dance or keep a beat to a record that keeps changing the RPMs. So that's what I think they did to help them win that ball game.
Cool. So you said a lot, and we've heard it. I mean, I think Ray Lewis, I'm sure someone said it before him, but I remember him saying after the Ravens won their first Super Bowl that the defense, won that championship. Absolutely. So when you look on the defensive side of the ball, you've got guys like Jadeveon Clowney, Chris Jones, Byron Jones of the Cowboys, Yannick Ngakoue here in Jacksonville, Shaq Barrett in Tampa Bay, Eric Armstead in San Francisco. All free agents. This is like a serious hardcore free agent class. As a team, if you're looking at who you want to keep and who you pay, Shaq Barrett is the guy, led the league in sacks. Tampa Bay keeps him.
Will they be able to keep him?
Money-wise,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I think that's the question. And you never really want to let go of your defense.
Yeah.
You might show up with a bad offensive night, but you should never, ever show up with a bad defensive night. For instance, like they say the same thing about basketball. I can have an off shooting night,
right,
but I should never have an off defensive night because that's just effort.
Right.
That's just effort. So replacing those guys, and especially when they're part of a system and they fit that component and they're familiar with it, do you trust having somebody that you can bring in and fit that piece that you can plug in right now? So that's the question. And I think it takes a little longer to develop a defensive player because there's more being thrown at them. A lot of their situations are going to be see, react, respond. And you got to make the right response. So it's not always just I'm going to be the physical brute, but you need to know what's going on. If not, somebody like a Tom Brady, they'll eat you up.
Right. And so you when you say that, it's like you have a team like Tampa Bay that has a decision to make because you've got Jameis Winston, or do you keep somebody like Shaq Barrett?
Right.
And as you said, this is a league that kind of realized the importance of having an Aaron Donald-like player on the team. Your quarterback, they're probably always going to be your highest paid player. Your left tackle should be the next, and we saw that. We saw that happen with Joe Theismann, right?
Yep.
And then your third guy should be that defensive end that could run off the edge. So Tampa Bay has a big decision to make. Jacksonville does as well, because are you going to keep Yannick Ngakoue, and your opinion of that is?
I would.
Yeah.
You got to have something to hold on to.
Right.
If they're going to show up and play, and that's what I'm going to look at. I'm going to look at numbers. I'm going to look at success. are we having the type of success that we need on the defensive side of the ball? And I believe Jacksonville, when they hit that uphill stride and where they were doing good, it was the defense that people were talking about. And the defense was playing lights out, lights out. So if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Gotcha.
Leave it. Don't mess with that part. Fix what's wrong. And I don't think the defense is what's wrong. So
Gotcha.
you can bring in some guys. You keep those veteran defensive players around. You need somebody to coach those guys up. They're going to listen to a guy that has that uniform on, unfortunately, before they listen to the guys. They'll listen to that guy blowing the whistle because they know he's part of helping them get their check cut. But those guys that's on that field help protect them, help them make more money. So I think that's the difference. But I would definitely hold on to my defensive side of the ball.
Good point you made. So we've got the draft coming up. It seems like it's far away, but it's really not. This year it's going to be in Vegas, April 23rd through 25th. And when you look at the draft order, you've got the Bengals at the top, then the Redskins, the Lions, the Giants, and the Dolphins, who also have the 5th pick, the 18th pick, and the 26th pick. We know that the Dolphins have a lot that they need to fix. But rumors, of course, before every NFL draft, there's talks about who's going where, and is Joe Burrow going first, or is it going to be Tua, whose last name I will not say because nobody wants to mess that up. But he's possibly being considered as the 5th pick for the Dolphins. But most people did not see him going this high because of the hip injury.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Maybe they're relying on Nick.
Okay.
At the end of the day, Alabama produces ball players.
They do.
On both levels. So I think they're looking at that, and he's probably, what we talked about, he's probably speaking the language. He's getting some interviews, and, some people are visiting and talking with him, and they just loving the conversation. And if he can translate that from where he's at now to the big show, then they're going to be satisfied with it. But like you, I have the same question, too, about the hip. Is it going to be, how effective is he going to be? Is he going to be the Tua that won the national championship, or will he just be an average guy? So that's what's going to be determined. And so I think doctors are going to play a role. His workout is going to play a role. So all of those private performances are going to take place. But I think, like you said, there's some guys out there shocking that he would go that high. But there's a need for quarterbacks.
Absolutely. And especially with the Dolphins, because they have been scrambling the past couple, just trying to figure. I mean, they could use anybody at this point, right? So let's talk about Joe Burrow, because this is probably one of the most, he's an interesting guy because he's quietly confident, but he's also very boisterous and somewhat confident. I won't say arrogant.
Right.
When I look at Joe Burrow, he could possibly go to the Bengals. He's a winning quarterback.
Yes,
it would be hard for him to go there. So my thoughts on Joe Burrow was, could we possibly see like an Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers situation where he pulls an Eli and is like, I'm not going to the Chargers. I don't care how this plays out. And we saw Eli go to the Giants, and we know how that has ended up for both quarterbacks.
Right.
Is Joe Burrow that kind of a guy?
I want to say no. I want to say no. I think he has shown like he was a leader for that team this year.
Absolutely.
He stepped up. Even some of the interviews that he had, the questions, his responses shocked me. So it seemed like he prepared himself for any situation. He doesn't seem to be a selfish guy. I think he loves football, and it looks like this year he was out there having fun. So I think if we put him around the right staff, the right people, I think if he feels comfortable, he'll be okay. And even if he doesn't feel comfortable, I think he'll find a way to make himself comfortable.
He'll make it work, right?
But
It should be interesting. Anything can happen in Vegas. So,
Yeah.
But I just had this feeling that if somebody would be the guy to do it, it would be him, because he's so used to winning. And to be honest, I mean, you could take that whole LSU team and put them up against the Bengals. And you could. I mean, people say all the time the guys in college could never go against the NFL team. But the reality of it is those same 19, 20, 21-year-olds who we are seeing making big plays in college, are the ones that the following year declare early for the draft and
That's
end up
true.
on an NFL team.
That's true.
So is it really age anymore or experience, or is it just pure raw talent?
I think it's experience and coaching.
Okay.
I think it's definitely you have to put coaching in there, because I can just put a Neanderthal on the field, and it doesn't mean he's going to be, if he doesn't know which way to run, which way to catch, which way to block, he's still lost. So the coaching component is going to help. And like we said, he has to fit the system. Guys have to fit the system. That's what's going to help them be successful. So I think if you put a staff around him that's going to use his attributes, that's going to help them get W's.
Speaking of coaching, I just want to get your opinion really quickly on this, because it was a phenomenal move, and I felt as though if anybody would do it, it would be Ron Rivera. So we see him go from the Panthers to becoming the Washington Redskins head coach, and I love him, but we all know I'm an Eagles fan, so they're still going to lose to us in the division, right? The Cowboys and Redskins and Giants can fight for whoever's going to be second. As my producer sucks his teeth at me behind the camera because we know he's a Redskins fan. But listen, so we saw him make a move in hiring Jennifer King.
Yes.
Full-time, first African-American to be named full-time staff. What does that do for the league? Where are we going? What is the future of the NFL now that a move like this has been made?
I'm glad, huge. I've always been a supporter of just the equal opportunity, especially for females. I mean, because you're talking about coaching. You're not talking about playing.
Right.
So to undermine them and say, well, they never played. But it's the mindset. And if you look, if you went through those closed rooms, there's a lot of coaches who've never played before.
Very true.
So we definitely can't base it off of that. I think it's an awesome opportunity. Just coming from a NFL flag, a national tournament, and my shock and awe, I was telling my staff, the female athletes were amazing. like there used to be a distinct difference between, you could walk up on a female athlete or a male athlete and be like, wow, huge difference. And I had to say, the development of the female athlete was shocking to me, and the talent level that I saw. Like, these girls were spinning that football like no end. And I actually found myself watching more of their games than the other games. And I just commended them. They had teams come all the way from Mexico. I mean, just amazing talent. So I think this is opening up a lot of doors. And it's letting people know, don't let anything stop you. If you believe you can do it, try. And that's the biggest part. And these women are showing out. And I love it. Coaching, football, playing. Keep going. I'm curious to see who knows, you might end up having a head coach.
Well, and hopefully that's where we're going. But I think before the NFL gets to a point where they can have a female head coach, we've got to fix the Rooney Rule first, and maybe incorporate a portion in there where we allow a female to be interviewed for maybe a more serious, and when I say serious role, I mean like a coordinator position, because you've got to kind of build your way up the ladder. But we've got to fix the Rooney Rule first, correct?
Correct. I think so. Wow. Curious to see how this is going to go. So the NCAA has a program called the NCAA Minority Heads Coaching Academy, and they select about 26 minority coaches from across the country, and they groom you to become a head coach of a major FBS or FCS. Or I was in the 2007 class, and in my class was Willie Taggart. Now these are all minority coaches. It was only 2 of us from an HBCU. The other coaches were actually from FCS or FBS schools. Even though you say you wanted to start with the organization, you have to get that respect from your own comrades and colleagues first. That was a minority, NCAA held it. That was a minority academy, but I can say me and my other HBCU compadre, we didn't feel, it's still in that room, you wouldn't have been able to tell that everybody was on the same page. And so I think it has to start with it not being a show, but it has to be a genuine effort. You know, it's not something to pacify what's on the outside, but hey guys, is this something that we really want to fix? If you go down NFL coaching rosters, there are some amazing assistants that deserve an opportunity. And I'm not saying that he's my frat. I'm not saying it because he's my frat. He's an awesome coach.
Yeah.
He's an awesome coach. There are some guys that have been around the league for years, and they don't get, when I say the just due, not because they've put the time in, but because of the productivity that they provided to those programs. So I think those dudes deserve an opportunity. And when you look at the inside, and you'll see guys come in where it's a dad, it's an uncle, and this person has no coaching experience. And for you to be there 10 or 15 years and watch this person shoot by you, and then all of a sudden he's your superior. How does that play out?
Yeah.
It's either saying that I don't know my job, or am I missing something? And if I am I valuable enough for you to provide me what I'm missing to help me move forward?
Gotcha. And correct me if I'm wrong, because you brought up a good point about there being, when you do look at an NFL roster, it's mind-boggling of how many of those assistant coaches are African Americans. So obviously an organization knows that you have to have them on your roster.
Absolutely.
They're just not as willing to give them a head coaching position.
Absolutely.
But does that start at the college level? Because we recently just saw Charlie Strong become, a
defensive
defensive coordinator with Nick Saban there in Alabama. But there's no reason why Charlie Strong shouldn't be a head coach somewhere with all of these schools that need head coaches, especially when you saw someone like, no offense, Cliff Kingsbury leave Texas Tech on a losing record and get the head coaching job for the Arizona Cardinals. So we've got to fix it at the lower level, right,
Absolutely.
first before we move up?
I totally agree. They all work hand in hand. The thing is, you have the money coming from different pots.
There you go.
So on the college level, you have the boosters. Even with people say where the boosters are outsiders, they still make a financial contribution.
Absolutely. And
to
their
an
opinion
institution.
is,
Absolutely.
gonna be-
When you talk about the NFL, you talk about private ownership.
Mm-hmm.
So you talk about, how are you going to tell me how to run my company? So that person or those entities have the absolute power to hire who they seem fit to run their program. So that's a huge block. So are we talking about equality or equity? And I think that's a huge, that to understand that difference, you'll get it. But as far as deserving the opportunity, there are so many minorities out there that do deserve the opportunity to have the head coach title or a chance just to prove themselves. And you're absolutely right. There are coaches. There was a coach that was a young coach that was at the Oakland Raiders. He was at the University of Tennessee. He was at the University of Southern Cal. Like, who gets those many opportunities?
Right.
And where's the hardware on the fingers to show that this is what I'm worth?
Right.
I provided championships. So just with that being said alone, just guys deserve chances.
Yeah, and when you look at the difference in the two leagues, speaking of, the two major leagues, NBA, NFL, they seem to have it a little bit different than we do in the NFL. I mean, even down to the point where we saw in the NBA All-Star, I thought it was hilarious. When you look on Twitter, the amount of NFL players that were commenting and saying, hey, NBA, can you come and change our All-Star game to kind of mimic and look like yours? And so maybe changing
That's
the
not a bad
All-Star
idea.
format is not the only thing that we need to see transition over.
I totally agree. I'm always impressed with the NBA, how they reach out.
Yeah.
The relationship between the players and the owners, or the head coaches, I'll say, in the NBA is amazing. Those guys get the opportunity to speak their mind. It doesn't seem like they're afraid to lose their paycheck. Well, if I say this, I might not have a spot on the roster. You really don't see that from NBA players. So I think I would like to see that spirit transition over to the NFL.
Do you think that has a lot to do with who's at the top? Because Roger Goodell and Adam Silver are two totally different people. And so is David Stern, God rest his soul, who just recently passed away. But he was a different type of person as well.
I absolutely agree. And once again, it's the entities behind that person that push their influence. So even with them being one person, it also boils down to, what am I willing to stand up for? And some of us are willing to stand up for more than others.
Gotcha. So when you look at, I know this is a big pizza to kind of devour at one time, but, it's got me thinking, when you look at sports as a whole, so when you look in Major League Baseball, when you look at hockey, when you look at golf, when you look at tennis, African Americans, we have much room to grow and
Yes.
a long way to come. Even when you look at broadcast journalism and
Absolutely.
the media circuit, you don't have a lot of African American faces that are being put out in the forefront, especially when you look at females
Right.
not getting much of an opportunity.
Absolutely.
Are we going to grow, and how soon do you see that happening?
I think a lot of change is happening, and I think it's happening fast because I think people are becoming more outspoken. People are becoming more action. So I think the key is, like I said, those small entities that are able to control larger groups. So we probably need to create a lot of smaller entities with larger groups to combat what you see taking place. But I've seen tremendous leaps, and I'm proud of it, and it gives you hope. So you, Brent, you might be a competitor of ESPN. It might not be only ESPN one day. Who knows? But somebody has to start somewhere.
Right.
So, and I think we're on the right path. We just gotta. It can't be a fad. It has to be something that's consistent. We're working at it. We're pushing at it, and we're seeing the productivity. This is amazing productivity.
Yeah. ESPN, look out. My producer is definitely excited. We're coming for you. But you make a great point. And
Absolutely.
speaking of beginning new things, the XFL. I mean, I don't think people really, when they announced that they were coming back, I don't think people took them seriously. But this league is onto something, and
Absolutely.
it's special because what we're seeing them do with changes in rules, like the kickoff, protecting the athlete
Absolutely.
in trying to reduce injuries,
Yeah.
but still making it efficient football.
Exciting.
Are you impressed with what you've been seeing these past 2
I'm
weeks?
impressed. Not only am I impressed, I'm curious to see if are some of those rules going to transfer over. If you're talking about safety, and it's something to swallow your pride, but it's another thing to just identify right is right. So if we enjoy what we see, but do we also care about our product? And if we
Yeah.
care about our product, then let's put them in the best situations possible, which
Yeah.
is safety. So closing that space minimizes the opportunity for risk.
And a shorter, more tighter game. I
Right.
love the fact that they've added this new referee,
Yeah.
whose sole responsibility is to mark the ball. It
That's
makes
that's
things
it.
run so more efficiently.
Absolutely.
Now, I can tell you one thing that the NFL is not going to add is the live.
Yeah.
When you see a flag thrown on the field and they go live in the box to
Exactly.
see the
The
referee
conversation.
who's in the booth break. They're definitely not going to do that,
Yeah.
because I think that one thing we've seen over the past couple of years is, referees coming out and saying, we made a mistake, the whole crew messed up, that shouldn't have been 4th and goal, the team wins and it cost another team the game. So we probably won't see that. But in your opinion, is the XFL a threat to college football because they're taking guys in right from
Bring
high
it to
school?
And that part I don't agree with. I think it takes time. There is a difference between a man and a young man, and I think letting a young man's body develop to take that grind that takes place in
Oh, yeah.
professional football,
Yeah.
that comes with time and development, and that body has to develop. And unfortunately, I think we'll see the results of that. As far as how long will those young men' career last? Was it a good career move? And what would have been the benefit if they could have waited 3 years to get that experience?
Right.
So I think that's what the difference is, because you are taking that factor out of play. Think about the jump from, if you think about the average, how many players are successful going from high school to college football?
Yeah.
Now you're talking
Very
about
few.
going from high school to pro.
Professional, yeah.
That's a huge jump.
Yeah,
That's a
and,
huge
and I'm
jump.
glad you brought up professional, because I think the people look at XFL and they feel like it's not real football. These guys are same size, making the same hits, same plays. It's still football.
I tell you what, let's line up an XFL player
Yeah.
and let's line up an NFL player
Yeah.
and let them hit one of them, and we'll tell me which one hit you.
Yeah.
I think that'll let them know if it's a difference or not.
Good point. I'm excited about the new league. I know you are. You probably got a couple
Absolutely.
guys in there that you're watching. Yeah, right, when you have time. So thank you so much for being with us this evening. You
Thank
came
you.
through once again. Tell people again how to follow you,
Yeah.
contact you, because you've given a lot of good information this
Absolutely.
evening.
You can find us on NFL Flag if you search for NFL Flag Football Leagues, or you can go to www.nflflag.com sports.cmu-sports.com.
Or you can just Google Coach Me Up Sports, right?
Absolutely.
If you don't remember
Yep.
that.
Get coached up.
Yes, get coached up. Ladies and gentlemen, that is all we have for you this Tuesday evening. Again, because Coach Chris Corprew said at ESPN, we're coming for you. And I don't mind that at all. Don't forget, you can catch us live every Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. And if you're wondering where all of these shows go because you're not able to watch us live, you can catch us on our YouTube channel at Get in the Game Show with Satara J. Also follow us on Facebook at Satara Bunch and on Twitter and Instagram at Bunch of Legs. That's LEGZZ. Don't forget to head over to 904live.com, like and share that platform, and just become a member of the 904 Live family. Thank you so much to my producers, Mr. Stefan Petty. Thank you to Mr. Allen. Thank you to my brilliant stylist, Barbara J. And to my mom who is out of town, who you probably didn't hear shouting in the background, Melinda Henry. We definitely miss her this evening. And definitely catch us next week. We will be talking to Mr. Nigel Eldridge, former player for the Tennessee Titans, who resides currently here in Jacksonville. He's going to tell us about his transition from the field into his newfound career on our series, Life After Football. Thank you for joining me this evening. You guys have a great night. Catch you soon.